So let's break down everything you need to know about this build and what makes it so good, what makes it so tanky, basically what makes it the perfect support if you're going to do expeditions or anything of the sort. So let's, do you know what? Let's start with the class tree first. Let's go something a little bit different. Let's go this way. So my main thought and my main process was being able to have armor, resistance, stacked to the heavens. I don't need to worry about firepower. I don't need to be worrying about anomaly power because that's what my teammates are there for. So therefore I do not need the capstone when it comes to Warden, which obviously increases my firepower and my anomaly power by obviously 5% of my armor. So I don't need anything of that. So we're all good there. So we want to grab as many of these tank and these resistance paragon nodes as we physically can, and preferably we want to grab both when it comes to the end, but preferably we also want to pick up Unending Watch. And the reason why we want to pick those up is I do think that Reflect Bullets is the perfect skill for supporting, especially when it comes to places like Marshall's Complex or chem plants or anything like that, where bullets will be flying and trying to damage any of your DPS teammates, any of your squishy kind of like technomancers or anything like that. You want to be able to make a firing lane that they don't need to worry about, and you need to be able to make that cover. So when it comes to reducing the cooldown, I go for Reflect Bullets. We also are running Golem, so obviously it helps on that front as well, but yeah, Reflect Bullets is obviously going to be our main support from that side of things. So yeah, all in all, pretty much bog standard. We want to grab as much max health as possible. If I had an extra point, I probably would have put it in there. But what we want to do on top of that is to also increase our health regen. And the reason why we want to do that is it's almost like a self-sustain, because we are going to be killing things within close range by ourselves. It kind of means that we have to rely on our teammates to be able to kill things for us, to be able to then get that bonus health, to be able to then keep ourselves kind of nice and topped up and nice and supplied. So this way I'm able to hold down Reflect Bullets as a way to be able to get myself out the firing line, to actually stop all the fire coming from my teammates but also for myself. So therefore I'm able to get myself back up. But this is also what comes into play when it comes to things like the animal kind of levels, when Purge is on the floor and you can actually stand in there. I'm going to put a clip up on the screen right now, but you can stand inside of the Purge. You do not need to worry about it because you're going to be gaining so much resistance from this kind of from this build that you can actually stand in there and your health will just not be dipping anywhere near what you actually need to be able to die, so for example. So having a little bit of health regen fights that as well, and that obviously keeps yourself nice and topped up. So we've gone for just the two, just to be able to, so we've got something there, so it actually is able to keep us supplied. On top of that, we've also gone for Outrider Commander. So this is the main kind of like, this is where we go into our support kind of side of things. So we can increase all healing and shield for all of our allies across the kind of battlefield by 20%. So it's a nice little boost. I do think it kind of helps. You could potentially get rid of that if you don't feel like your teammates are benefiting from that, and you could put it into maybe more health or maybe more health regen to be able to keep yourself alive on top of that. We've also gone for Unbroken Vow, and the reason why we've gone for that is because we don't want people to rely on or to worry about having to pick us up. We are the rock of the team. Yes, that's a pun intended, because obviously we are a Devastator and we will be going for Golem as well. But yeah, we want to make sure that we can survive by ourselves. To be completely honest with you, you rarely see this actually get procced, and the only times you will ever see it get procced are if you're attacking Reavers, and obviously those only ever spawn in Eye of the Storm, and the main boss at the hidden one that's behind City of Nomads is also one as well. He can sometimes get enough damage. It will take him a long time, but he can sometimes get enough through where he will actually kill you. So you could actually have this as like a support kind of like safety thing. By all means, don't have to worry about that. You can take this off and put it onto Colossus, but the fact that this triggers once every 180 seconds, and the fact we don't have to worry about a timer as much nowadays, you will actually be able to get this triggered off and be able to like get it cool down, like survive the cooldown for it to then come back and actually be able to use it. So it's not a bad shout, but obviously feel free to take that off if you find that that's not useful for yourself. On top of that, we've gone for Heirloom Armor, where an enemy dies in close range, 20% of their armor will be transferred to you for 10 seconds. Now, like I said, we are relying on our teammates to be able to get those kills, but it actually helps to be able to increase how much damage we're doing, and the fact we're using Reflect Bullets, and there's going to be a lot of enemies that are going to be rushing to be able to do melee, and basically all those ones that are going to be there, that are going to be rushing, or that kind of thing, your Technomancer or whatever DPS you are running with will take them out, and you will gain all that armor, and that just helps to make it even more tanky, ready for the next fight on top of that. If we go from there to Stone Circle, obviously this increases our close range by additional 4 meters, which helps with heirloom armor as well. But we've also gone through the mob, which increases our armor by 7% for each enemy that's also in close range. So we're gaining armor from enemies being next to us. We're then gaining even more armor. Well, we're gaining armor when they die as well, and obviously we're extending that range. Nice and simple, self-explanatory, all good there. So all of these stacked up, all these bonuses that we're seeing here will actually feed into here. And if we have a look at the class sheet, we are only seeing an 81.3% damage reduction, so against bullets and all that, which granted is huge, which is amazing, but the resistance is only at 50% at the moment. Now that can get up to 135%. I have seen it hit that number, and that means that basically nothing will be able to get anywhere near killing you. It does require a lot of enemies to be able to be nearby, but it just, yeah, it really just makes you so tanky, and the armor will also increase as obviously the fight goes on. I believe I've seen that up 85%. I may have seen it go a little bit higher than that in terms of like how much you actually get done, but just remember that obviously it diminishes how much you actually benefit from the more armor that you actually see. So the fact that we get a resistance that's over 135%, yeah, we are being tickled by brood mothers and their purge that goes on the floor, and you know how notorious that actually can be. In terms of what else we've got, so let's break down the skills first. So we've gone for reflect bullets, like I've mentioned. You can actually choose to be able to end this prematurely, and obviously send all the bullets back or that kind of thing. It's a great way to be able to hold, like I said, a lane. When it comes to snipers, Technomancers, and I had this from Swimmy himself, when it comes to the Marshalls Complex and there's a couple of snipers there, you can literally just hold the screen and the snipers do not know what to do. You can literally just hold that there. The Technomancer can do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about being stumbled. They don't have to worry about the health dropping anywhere near. You're able to hold that there for 10 seconds, and yeah, it's just so good, and it really just eases off the pressure and allows the Technomancer or the DPS to be able to do their job. When it comes to Golem, granted this helps ourselves because obviously we're seeing this for 19.2 seconds for 65% of the incoming damage, but we are also going to be using the mod to be able to extend that to our teammates, so we're extending that 65% damage reduction over to them, which also helps squish your targets like the Technomancer, for example. It also allows the Trickster, as they're dashing in and out of firefights, that they can also have some nice damage reduction as well, and it also supports your Pyromancers for the fact that they're going to be applying debuffs most of the time, or pyros can tend to be squishy, so therefore your golem is there to be able to protect them as well. And then our tremor is going to be our main damage buff. So if you think about it, if you want to think of the skills as protection, so protection from incoming fire with reflect bullets, or just being able to like create a wall. Then you've got your golem for your defense debuff, not debuff, defense buff to all of your teammates. So therefore you're able to provide them some extra defense. And then your tremor is your offensive buff, and that we'll get into why that's the case in a second. But yeah, it's so good, and it really does help out massively. So if we go from there to the build, let's have a quick look into it. So my main gun is going to be something that has mods that inflict damage. So we've gone for the Damascus offering with Claymore Torrent, and we've gone for Ultimate Storm Whip. Short cooldowns, does a bit of AoE, but you can also just, how I kind of use this is because I just tap fire this gun, and it just allows like every other shot, it kind of then triggers the mods, and it just be able to deal a little bit of damage. Now you aren't going to be the main primary damage dealer. You're not going to see any kind of benefit of the buffs that you're going to be providing. You are there to be able to support your teammates, and that is what you're there. So technically you don't need a gun. You can replace that with anything you want. You are there for your skills, and you are there to be able to support your team. If we then go into it, we are going for a statue set. Now with statue, when either tremor or golem is active, it increases firepower by 100% and increases weapon skill leech by 100% for you and your teammates. Now I'm led to believe that when it comes to using golem, this is currently bugged, so don't rely on golem as your offensive buff. Rely on tremor, because tremor does work absolutely fine for this. So yeah, so we've gone for a 4-piece, which requires On the head, anyway, it requires bonus firepower, skills, life leech, and cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is the main one that we want to be focusing on. We do want a couple of pieces that do roll into max health as well, because we are looking to buff ourselves to be able to give us ourselves that biggest health pool as physically possible, to be able to make sure that we stay alive as long as possible as well. So when it comes to mods, I've gone for Grand Blast, which is the tier 3 mod that comes on the statue's head, which increases the radius of each explosion of tremor by 20%. Now, the reason I've gone for that is because tremor is a great way to be able to keep ourselves alive. It's a great way of health reduction, kind of income into ourselves without any need for killing whatsoever. So it's a great way for us to be able to get in the middle of the fight and be able to stay alive. I've gone for even odds because this increases our max health by 10% for each enemy within a 10-meter radius, and this stacks up to 3 times. All of a sudden, you're going to get yourself into the middle of the fight. You're going to be having enemies gathering around you to try and take you down. You're giving yourself a nice 30% max health bonus, and that pushes us close to like 60k health, and it really is quite nice to be able to have that buffer, and it is really good to be able to just that health is never going to be dipping down. So you're there to be able to absorb as much of the damage as physically possible. If we then go from there to the statue's torso, this is where the other kind of buff comes in from Tremor. So it's a tier 3 mod of Power of the Stone. So when the skill is active, all allies gain a 40% weapon damage bonus for 8 seconds. And this tied in with the statue set itself. You're seeing 40% weapon damage, you're seeing 100% firepower. It's very, very nice. You're actually starting to see a lot of weapon damage coming their way. I've gone for damage absorber on top of that to be able to increase our armor even further and our resistance by 10%. So that helps us to be able to start hitting those higher numbers and be able to resist as much damage as physically possible. When it comes to the legs, I've gone for Golem Squad. And unfortunately, this does roll with max health, which is very, very nice. But Golem Squad increases the duration by 20% and casts a 25% shorter version of Golem on your allies. So we're going to see the biggest benefit from this. But it does mean that our allies, if they're ever in trouble, you've got to pay attention to the top right of the screen. If they ever start getting low, you're then able to activate Golem, give them, say, a 65% damage reduction, and just get them out of trouble. It really does help out quite nicely. And I've also gone for Crush Sequence for Tremor to receive 2 additional explosions. This helps to be able to increase the longevity of the statue bonus, or at least the one part that currently does work. So the longer that Tremor lasts, the longer that you're able to apply that 100% firepower and that weapon skill leech to your allies. If we go from there to the hands, we've gone for Perseverance, increasing the skill duration of Golem by 100%. From what I can tell, it's kind of inconsistent. I think this does benefit and it does go across to your teammates as well, but I've seen it just kind of wear off, and it's worn off in different times as well for teammates, and I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. So that's definitely going to need a little bit more testing, but I do feel that this gets some kind of added benefit to your teammates, and it's just the full length minus 25% is what gets extended to them. On top of that, we've gone for Human Fortress, where Tremor gives us a nice bit of health regen and gives us extra armor while the skill is active. So this helps us to be able to, once again, stay in the fight. We don't have to rely on Golem to be able to have that damage reduction or anything like that. We can just give ourselves a little bit of extra armor and we're good to go. And then lastly, we've gone for the death proof gear, and the reason why I've done that is because we've gone for Life of the Party. Now, Life of the Party incoming damage is reduced by 3% for each enemy in close range, which of course we're extending through our skill and our class tree, and this stacks up to 8 times. So that means we can reduce damage coming to us by 24% if there are 8 enemies within close range. And then lastly, we've gone for Circle of Power, which boosts our resistance by 15% every time we use a skill, and this stacks up to 3 times and deteriorates every 7 seconds. So just think, every single time you activate a skill, you are then giving yourself a nice bit of resistance to be able to well, obviously stay alive. I believe that melee, so obviously every single time you activate your melee skill, this actually does count as a skill, so therefore it actually will increase your resistance. But that one, I'll be honest, I haven't tested out too much. I've just noticed that all of this put together will give us some substantial numbers in terms of defense, and just keeps us alive the longest. Now, I can see it all now in the comments section. You're going to be saying to me, why, Songs of Rage, would I ever run this build? Why would I ever want to be a Devastator that can't do any damage whatsoever? Why am I nerfing myself? Why am I holding myself back just to be able to help out my teammates? Now, I get it, I understand, I definitely appreciate where you're coming from with those kind of comments. You know, this Devastator is not for everyone. It's definitely not a case that this Devastator is the meta way to be able to go. You know, there's no real meta nowadays as such. You know, there's a lot of freedom that can be had when it comes to builds, and this is just another way of being able to roll a Devastator. Now, what I will put to you is that obviously there are debuff pyros. The debuff pyros exist because they're there to be able to help out the firepower technomancers in Eye of the Storm carries, and obviously hats off to you. You've chosen that playstyle, and you are a massive bonus to the community because you're really helping people out. Now, why can't a buff Devastator technically be in the same category as that? I consider them to be in there because, let's be honest, if you've got a buff Devastator that's able to increase firepower for a Technomancer on an Eye of the Storm, and they're able to hit those crits on Yagak, it's insane. We've got a clip of that. In fact, I'm actually going to put that up on the screen right now for you. It's, you know, it's unheard of. The fact that a Devastator is able to be in that kind of scenario, that they're able to help their team as much as physically possible when it comes to this build. And I've literally tried to think of every kind of scenario to be able to make this Devastator work for you. And I understand it doesn't do as much damage, and you know, it relies on mods to be able to do so. But you know, this is a team-based game. This is a co-op based game, and this build is designed for co-op, and it's there to be able to help your teammates, and your teammates are there to be able to do their job, and you are making sure that they have the space, they don't have the stress of any of the enemies or anything like that. You're giving them all the tools they need to be able to have such a good game, and you're able to get really fast clears with this. You're able to your Technomancer doesn't have to worry about any kind of like spacing issues or anything like that. They're able to just stand at the back and just pick everything off, and you're able to just be the wall for them, and it's refreshing. It put a smile on my face as to how much damage I'm able to take in this build, how much flak I'm able to divert to myself, and the fact that I know that my Technomancer is going to be there having a blast with this. And it works with Tricksters, it works with any kind of firepower build whatsoever. I'd love to be able to make a firepower Devastator just to be able to run this and just see how fast it goes and just see how they do. It would just genuinely amaze me. But honestly, pick it up, give it a go. If you've got the tools, honestly, if you've got the teammates as well, they will genuinely love for you for it. And obviously you've seen the numbers on the Akari Spider. You can see the numbers that you can kind of hit, and that I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a 14 million in there, and that was without crits. And granted, there was a debuff pyro on the field as well, but that was just to be able to help us see what kind of numbers we can hit. And there will be a follow-up video to that as well, because I'm starting to look into pre-designed classes that can go into expeditions, so I'll be touching on that in another video, but so this was just also a teaser for that. But it's a lot of fun to be able to play this build, and like I said, I recommend you give it a go just to try it out. So that pretty much leaves me just to be able to wrap this up, and I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed the breakdown, and hopefully you've enjoyed the gameplay that we managed to get from one of our Discord members called Swimmy. The Akari gameplay and all that is purely from their perspective, while I've been activating buffs, while I've been activating just going around trying to be a nuisance for the enemies and just create as much space as possible for them. Basically the playstyle that I've been describing throughout the whole video. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It really does mean the world to us, and hopefully, yeah, just hopefully I'll see some comments of people actually picking this up and just seeing how they get on. Like I said, it works if you've got teammates that you're able to coordinate with. But yeah, it's a lot of fun just to be able to pick up and go. Do you know what? I'm going to stop saying that because I'm trying to sell it to you, and you don't need to hear that from me anymore. So, as always, thank you so much to the Babylonian family. It really does mean the world to us that obviously you do support the channel. Their names will be popping up at the end of the video. If you want to take part in that, make sure you click the join button that's found next to the subscribe button. It really is just as little as 99p a month, and it just gets your name up on our videos. It gets you some exclusive access over on our Discord, and it just helps to be able to support the channel. And all the money goes straight back into the channel just to be able to help us out, create other kind of videos, other kind of competitions, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up. So as always, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you all on our next video.